You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, bar, arcade, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
Today on the Game Marks podcast, we play TNA Impact, the mobile game. Will this mobile version of TNA's flagship show stand the test of time? Will we play it forever or future endeavor?
You're fired!
All this plus some gaming news, GMP64 and Clash at the Feast. Plug in, put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now.
And now, the Game Marks. Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
And I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, your reigning, defending Clash at the Feast champion. For how much longer? That leaves to be seen. But today we are playing TNA Impact, the mobile game.
And as always, we love to hear from you guys, so please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen, and join the conversation on social media at GameMarksPod and on Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. I like the way you say that, remains to be seen how long you're going to be the Clash at the Feast champion, because I'm coming for you.
Listen, this is my favorite part of having this Clash at the Feast tournament that we do, is that because right now the standings are, I have 3 wins, you have 2 wins. So depending on how this week goes, either I'm making that gap between us a little bit longer, or we're tied. And I love the competition. That first year when we first started out going back and forth in these games, like we were neck and neck for a long time. It was like someone was up 2, someone was up 1. We were tied for a little bit. Like, it's cool, as cool as it is to be like, oh, I win and I'm the reigning defending and all that other stuff. Like
literally you every week.
No, but the competition aspect of it is good. Like I enjoy it because despite what the Clash at the Feast record shows, you are also very good at video games.
Aww. All right, well, thanks. We're going to follow up from last week. We had friend of the pod, I guess we could say that now, at least for me, MJF.
Your friend. My friends, not so much.
AEW superstar MJF joined us for an exclusive interview to talk about his favorite video games growing up, his hate for all video games that aren't wrestling, calling Rosie O'Donnell certain names, and what a wild ride that one was.
Got some traction with that little soundbite of his interaction with Rosie O'Donnell there. I got a little traction. Got picked up by a couple of news outlets there. A little different of an interview for us. But listen, I'll say this. For me, the highlight of that whole exchange and pretty much every interview that we've done, the time that we sat down with Max, the time that we had Bear Bronson on, Phil, TK, the one time he was on in the background. It's cool to have those I don't know, to find out that like foundation, the gaming foundation of like where everyone started off and like where their favorites are. Like if you would have asked me, you knew this prior to the interview. I had no idea. Never in a million years am I guessing that the first, or I guess the most memorable game or the favorite game for MJF is Day of Reckoning.
Kind of peel the curtain back and just see what they played growing up compared to what we played, because we're a little bit older and they're a little bit younger. They might be playing, like he started on GameCube. We started on like NES, Super Nintendo, Sega.
Yeah, that's always my favorite part of all the interviews that we do. It's just like finding where everyone's start was.
But speaking of interviews, yesterday we actually conducted an interview with Mark Out, the digital wrestling card game, and we are going to be dropping that very soon. We haven't decided when or if we're going to do a bonus with it, but it's going to be in video and audio format because Shannon Williams, he's the creator of the game. He showed us some cool stuff on the camera, and we got to share it with you guys.
Awesome guy. Cannot wait for that game to come out. And trust me, John did a good job explaining, but he kind of undersold it. I think that this may be one of the most in-depth interviews that we've ever done with a game developer, and I am more excited about this game now than I was before, and I was already pretty damn excited.
And that's coming up soon. But George, what's new on Patreon this week? Right now, today, you get this ad-free show. Tomorrow, you get the show notes and you get GMP Game Over at 7 p.m. Wednesday, you get Future Endeavored. Last week, you played...
No, wait. I wanna cut you off here because last week I played Super Brawl. We've talked ad nauseum about our feelings on that game, but John, this week, do you know what you get to play?
Unfortunately, I do, and it's Nacho.
I'm backing up from the microphone here. Nacho.
I wish you guys could see what he looks like doing that. But yes, this week I'm playing Nacho Libre, another game we Future Endeavored. The beautiful part about Future Endeavored is we get to go back and play these games we didn't really like. And then, of course,
God,
Friday.
I still love that movie so much.
And then, of course, Friday, Clash and Burn. This week we watched Johnny Clash. That's me. My first ever match, and I took you through the whole night. So sign up today for all of this extra bonus content, plus our Discord channel that we love so much.
Amazing stuff happening in that Discord. But listen, it's time for us to talk about the Streamer Spotlight, because the Streamer Spotlight is helping people grow their brands on Twitch, and I cannot think of anybody more deserving of this final week of their entire month. This one guy got the entire month of June, and he deserved it because twitch.tv/Phil Cardigan. You love him. We love him. Make sure to go and support Phil on Twitch. He's playing everything. He's doing Saints Row. He's still trying to beat Aladdin. He actually recently just sat down with Smart Mark and did a Silver Linings with him. He talked about that on his Twitch channel. It's awesome. It's great. We love Phil, and stay tuned because next week, brand new Streamer Spotlight for the month of July.
That's right. And last night, if you're listening to this on Monday, was GMP64 SummerSlam live on Twitch.
I don't have words. I mean, if you were there, you saw the absolute chaos that ensued the entire show. It wasn't just like one thing was that oh my God moment. The entire show was just unreal. The main event, I'm still recovering from whatever the hell that was. John, just explain something to me. I need something.
If you haven't seen it, go check it out. YouTube.com/GameMarksPodcast, GMP64. Every week we play No Mercy against each other with our own brands of rosters and pay-per-views every single month live on Twitch. Last night's might have been the most mind-blowing of them all. You could check that out still on Twitch for about another day or two before it goes away forever and just lives on our Patreon page.
But John, SummerSlam was great and all. But the next one that's coming up, that next pay-per-view in July, I can't wait because July's pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble.
One of my favorite pay-per-views. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania, which happens in September. And that's it for Season 1 of GMP64. If you're not on board, get on board now because it's coming to a head.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. But listen, speaking of GMP64, that lives on our YouTube channel. And currently, we are at 301 subscribers on YouTube. But when we hit 400 subscribers, we will be doing the video game history of the Legion of Doom. That's Animal and Hawk, the Road Warriors, full video game history. You'll be getting that in audio and in visual form. And I mean, from what we've done with the Undertaker episode, with the Bret Hart episode, this is some of the most fun we have with our content creation. It's just so cool to go back, and some of these games we've already played, some of them we're still working through the catalog because the gaming catalog is really, really large. But it's cool to see how these guys' appearances change and grow and develop as the graphics improve.
Yeah, or even the Fire Pro series, which we'll touch on. We're not going to get deep into it. All the instances where the Road Warriors are ripped off.
Yeah.
But with that, George, what do you say we head on over to some gaming news? Because we covered a lot last week with E3. We're going to take it down a notch this week.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at vgfgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style.
Epic Games teased not long ago a new Fortnite skin featuring Loki, the trickster god who just recently got his own Marvel TV show on Disney+. Exactly 1 month later, we've gotten confirmation of the skin's existence alongside details on how players can acquire it and when it's released. The new Loki skin will be part of the next Fortnite crew bundle of rewards, which means you'll have to subscribe to that service at least for July if you want to get the content. Earlier last week, 343 Industries released the Season 7 update for Halo, the Master Chief Collection. The update includes a number of features that Halo fans should enjoy. Most notably, the update adds new tools for modders to use in Halo Combat Evolved. Interestingly enough, modders don't even have to own Halo, the Master Chief Collection to use these tools. They are simply available to all Steam users in the tools section. WWE Undefeated continues to add new legendary WWE superstars like Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, and Edge to the mix, as well as current superstars like Roman Reigns, Kofi Kingston, and Seth Rollins. Now they're adding one more of the most charismatic superstars ever to the game in Latino Heat himself, Eddie Guerrero. Eddie became a playable character in WWE Undefeated last Friday and is now available. That's all the gaming news we have this week. Check back next week.
Now, John, did you happen to see, you talked about Loki, did you happen to see that there was a limited edition cereal that came out that was Loki Charms?
I didn't see that, but I'm not a big cereal guy. What are the little Tesseract marshmallows?
I guess. It looks like it was just the box art change. It looked like it was just the normal Lucky Charms, but instead of the leprechaun with his rainbow on the cover, it's Loki, his horns in a cartoon style, and he's got, his little green magic there. You got Tom Hiddleston on the side of the box. It was cool. The box looks really cool. This is definitely, I'm assuming, a cereal that most people are not going to eat. This is probably going to be a cereal that is left in box, and you'll see on eBay in a couple of years for like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That cereal is something I would look for on the secondhand market, but I'm sure it's going to go for a nice pretty penny now.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty expensive.
All right, George. But up next, it's the question of the week.
Hey yo, Game Marks. You know who I am, and I'm here to tell you about our pro wrestling tees and TeePublic stores. Now let me tell you something, Game Marks. Not only do we have the most radical shirts over at Pro Wrestling Tees, we also have a TeePublic store with even more designs, dude. So head on over to ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod and TeePublic.com/user/GameMarksPod, because when you're GMP for life.
All right, so the question of the week is a weekly segment where you ask us a question, and if we pick it, you get a GMP prize pack. Last week's question was, who was the one wrestler that deserves to be in a WWE 2K game but has not? And John and I gave our answers. We kind of agreed that we need more ECW guys. But there's a lot of options that we kind of thought of afterwards, because I was like, oh, how did we forget about the fact that Saturn needs to be in a 2K game?
Yeah. Raven.
Canyon has it. Raven, Canyon. Guys that probably deserve to be in games in one way or in one shape, or form, or another. There's a lot. But Purple Best Wishes guy let us know that he thinks that Double J and the Roadie need to be included, and that's interesting because they have so many different versions of all the other characters. They'll do Triple H from 2000, and they'll do Triple H from '05, and they'll like have all these iterations. But like, you really always just get like the Road Dogg.
I like this one. This one was, I think, pretty unique because they said Raven, if they ever give Goldberg like a streak-like storyline like they did for Stone Cold.
Oh, that's cool. And then you can get Metal Plate
Lodi.
Bret Hart in the game too.
Yeah, Lodi and all them. Hugh Morris.
Scotty Riggs.
But here's one answer that obviously it's not going to happen, but I think it is the answer, and it's Owen Hart.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is top of the list. I mean, everyone has been asking for this. I think he's probably one of the most creative wrestlers in every game since everything that happened. So there's not a doubt in my mind that the people would love to see. Could you imagine like an Owen Hart collector's edition? Like what that would be like? I can't imagine that that's going to be something that we get from a WWE game, but you know, it seems, you know, after the Dark Side of the Ring and now all the new, you know, merchandise and apparel that's been coming out with Pro Wrestling Tees partnership, like I wonder if maybe we'll start to see the IP of Owen Hart start to pop up in video games. Like maybe we see him in a Retromania. Maybe we see him in
yeah, and that's something we said when Retromania came out too. That would be a cool option to have.
Cap Kidman on Instagram says, maybe a weird response, but I've been wanting the Hurricane in a game for years. And I feel like this is an easy win because Hurricane already works for the WWE. So this is a very easy thing. You can get long hair. Oh my God. Imagine this. You get the Hurricane. You get the long hair and the short hair version of the Hurricane. But then you also get like a full on like Greg Helms.
Three count Greg Helms.
You get, yeah, but then you also can get like Rosie as the superhero in training. You can get Mighty Molly. Like,
but let's go to this week's question. This week's question is from Forgotten Irish. If you guys could put yourself in any wrestling game that's been released, what is your first pick?
Oh, that's tough. So like style wise and like the way that the game looks, I would love to be in Retromania.
Okay.
I think like just like the art style of that game is cool. Like I would love to have like an 8-bit version. Like could you imagine you and I in that game coming out as a tag team, but we're coming out to like the 8-bit version of our ending theme, our Max Caster theme. Like that'd be so awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm going a little differently. Because he said your first pick, I'm going to have to go with WrestleMania, the arcade game.
Yeah, so that's... I mean, the first game that came to my mind was Royal Rumble.
The second thing, obviously, TNA Impact, the original TNA Impact.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think I'm... First game that came to mind was Royal Rumble because I would love to be in that. It's it's one of the first wrestling games I ever played, so I would love that.
The Dreamcast,
obviously.
One, right?
No. The SNES, the good Royal Rumble game. Obviously, Retromania would be cool, and then I feel like it's an easy layup to be like, oh, I want to be in No Mercy. But I feel like that's a given.
Yeah, especially because we can make ourselves in No Mercy, and it'll probably look exactly how it would look anyway.
I mean, check out GMP64 to see what Johnny and I look like if we were in No Mercy.
But yeah, if you go Retromania, I'm going WrestleMania, the arcade game. Forgotten Irish, DM us on social media to claim your prize. Actually, last week's listener, Dallas Avery, also do the same because you haven't, and your prize is just going to go to someone else if you don't claim it.
Oh, no.
But George, are you ready? Are you tiptoeing towards that mobile diving board? Are you ready for TNA Impact, the mobile game?
I'm actually very excited for this game. This was a different experience than how we normally do things, and this is my first TNA wrestling game experience. So,
all right. So up next, the deep dive.
Are you sick of drinking the same old boring coffee with the same old boring flavors? Well, Marks, it's time for you to check out Bones Coffee Company. Bones Coffee isn't just a drink that wakes you up in the morning. It's a full flavor experience. Small batch roasts that are made to order so that every order is guaranteed to be fresh. Unbelievable, all-natural flavors in every single bag. Some of our favorites are blueberry, paradise pie, and chocolate raspberry. But If you're not into the flavored coffees, they've got their single origin series featuring coffee beans from the greatest coffee growing regions in the world. Visit GameMarksPod.com/coffee to place your order and try the world's freshest small batch coffee. All right. So here we go, John. Our very first TNA wrestling game. Oh, man. TNA Impact, the mobile game, released on iOS May 19th in 2011 and on Android June 3rd in 2011, developed and published by Namco. And this game just has mobile written all over it. Just the presentation, the short entrances, the way that the limited move sets, everything about this is just all mobile. But there's something that's like kind of charming and fun about this game. I mean, it's a TNA game. The roster is surprisingly large for a mobile game, but it makes a good use of, in terms of like how the controls are. This is not a bad feeling game to play. It's not like it's an incredibly difficult game to master. There's not a ton to figure out. Learning curve is relatively easy. But listen, you're the one who had some already pre-established experience with this game. So I would like to hear what you thought. Is this a game that you played a lot when you were younger? I know that you were very excited to play it this week.
Well, first of all, it's by Namco, like you said, and that obviously always gets a little check in my book because they know what it takes to put on a mobile game, but also they've done handhelds. They're good with the smaller type of games. I'll say that. So
yes,
I remember this just showing up in the library on my Android phone back in 2011. I don't remember hearing any hype of it. Researching now, there was a commercial that's on YouTube saying coming in May, and I guess the Android took a little bit longer to get there. But I played the hell out of this game. It was TNA Wrestling. It is the roster that you wanted for a TNA Impact 2 if it was on a console game, but it was mobile. And I don't think there was anything wrong with this game per se. It had the career mode. It had create a wrestler. Was it perfect? No. Did it have the X Division matches, the Ultimate X? No, but what they gave you was awesome. And the roster was over 24 wrestlers. I don't know. I just don't think that there's any more you could ask for in a mobile wrestling game. I am not a fan, I guess, of the on-screen controls in any game because I feel like as I go on, my fingers like slide off of where the buttons should be. So for the joystick to just be on the left and then the buttons on the right, sometimes that could be hit or miss.
Have you ever seen there's like the little attachments that you can get for your phone that you like slide your phone in, and it's got like you hold it like a regular controller, but it's got like a rubber padding so it hits the buttons for you and it like moves around like that. I always thought that those were so cool, but I don't know I can't speak to how functional they were because I never ended up pulling the trigger and getting one.
Yeah, same. I never actually bought one.
But they always look so cool. I'm like, yeah, I could get behind this. I could do this, but never had a mobile game that.
Yeah, so this actually is the second mobile TNA wrestling game because in 2008, TNA Wrestling Impact came out, which coincided with the console release, and it had 2D graphics. It was more cartoony. It was kind of just like an overhead view of the six-sided ring. It wasn't much. I would compare it to almost like Attitude for Game Boy, and if you ever played that, it was a big pile of hot garbage.
Yeah, but obviously we're not covering that because we're saving that till... Are we still on the Dixie Carter train?
We're still on the Dixie Carter train, yeah.
All right. Well, don't forget, guys. Clash loves Dix by E. Carter. Oh, man. But all right. So let's talk about your game options here and what kind of modes you got. So this game, I think you touched on it a little earlier, actually has a career mode where you pick your character, you play through, but something that's very interesting and I think is a cool utility, I guess, is that whatever character you pick to go through the story mode with, it creates a clone of that character. So you showed me that you were going through the story mode with Abyss, and it created a duplicate Abyss with a little asterisk next to its name, so that you knew that that was the one that you were going through story mode with, because you can level that character up and get its stats all the way up. So I think it's cool that one, it gives you the option to level that character up and use it outside of that, but two, also doesn't affect the regular character of Abyss, so that if you and I were playing like we did today, it's not like, oh no, you're using this crazy jacked up Abyss.
And you questioned me too. You're like, whose stats are you raising? Like right when you jumped on, I'm like, no, I'm doing the story mode.
But usually that's how it is. Like there's a lot of games where like if you pick to go through a game with AJ Styles, you're affecting like the core gameplay of AJ Styles.
Yeah, and the career mode here gives you 3 options: heavyweight, X Division, and tag team. And very similar to how Retromania is, they give you kind of like the cutscenes. You see Eric Bischoff and Hogan, or Mike Tenay will pop up on the screen like every other mobile or handheld career mode. And I think it's cool that you get heavyweight, X Division, or tag team. You get all those options in a mobile game.
Yeah, and I feel like I kept saying this the entire time that we were going through this game and playing. It's just like, I can't believe that this game has so much stuff in it. Like the different match options that you can pick that we're going to talk about in a little bit, the arenas, the roster, like there's just, this doesn't feel like a mobile game. It has a lot more bells and whistles than you would expect. But so you have your career mode, you've got your exhibition mode. Now within there, you can pick your arenas. You have the Impact Zone, you have Bound for Glory, you have Turning Point, you have Final Resolution, and then your match types. You have your standard match, a submission match, a false count anywhere match, a no DQ match, a cage match, and a tag match. There are also achievements that you can unlock from completing certain tasks, and there's a link, unfortunately no longer works, to TNA videos.
It says TNA video. I don't remember if it was a highlight or if it might have just led you to the YouTube page, but clicking the link now, it's dead. It doesn't work. So maybe it's not the YouTube.
Yeah, well, did you click on it back in the day?
Probably. I don't remember what it brought me to, though.
All right, well, let's talk about this now. So before we run into the roster, I want to talk about another very unique feature that you have for a mobile game. You can actually create your own wrestler, which is super cool. So the screenshot that I'm looking at right now is the screenshot of TNA Impact Mobile Johnny Clash. So take us through this creative suite. So obviously you have your name, style, attribute points. You pick your moves, your finisher, your body type. But like, talk about like the options for creating your actual guy.
All right, so not many. It kind of, they give you the options, but there's like 3 beards, 4 hairstyles, really default bad tattoos, like a giant skull with like a lock on my chest. The gear, you can't actually design like, say, a logo on the gear. It's kind of just plain trunks or tights. So it's simple. But if you're playing story mode with your created wrestler, you could level them up to be on par with the rest of the TNA wrestlers in the game.
So one thing that I did notice that was a little weird. So the character models look good, and we're going to talk more about how good the likeness is when we actually break down the roster. But for some reason, everyone's got like a really big forehead. Like the proportions of where the eyebrows end and the hairline starts. Everyone's got like this giant like 5 head that like protrudes from their face. It's like a weird like Cro-Magnon thing happening, and it's a mobile game. It's from 2011, so beggars can't be choosers. But it's just something that I noticed while we were playing through. But listen, you're the big TNA wrestling game guy here, so I think that you should be the one to take us through this roster.
You got it. But before we do, let's hear a word from our sponsor. So your stacked TNA Impact Mobile game roster. Abyss, AJ Styles, Hernandez, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Samoa Joe, Sting, The Pope, Desmond Wolfe, Jay Lethal, Doug Williams, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, James Storm, Robert Roode, Kevin Nash, Mr. Anderson, Jeff Jarrett, Ric Flair, Jeff Hardy, Tommy Dreamer, Rob Terry, Shannon Moore, and the unlockable, the immortal, Hulk Hogan.
And, for a lot of these, the likeness is pretty good. I mean, can't really mess up Hulk Hogan. Looks like Hulk Hogan. Sting's gear is good. The face paint is accurate, but the face shape
The forehead,
is a little,
like you said.
yeah, it was a little off. RVD looks like RVD. Samoa Joe looks like Samoa Joe. Like the models aren't perfect, but the likeness is accurate enough where you're like, okay, I could tell that this is who it's supposed to be. Like Abyss isn't like a perfect model of Abyss. But you're like, all right, I could tell that that's Abyss. Like AJ Styles looks like AJ Styles. So, it's good for what it is.
I think the best looking models here are Jeff Hardy and Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah, I mean Jeff Hardy, the face paint's awesome. The arm bands are awesome. Like, it's great.
Now, let's touch on the entrances quick, because you have everyone's legit theme song. You have kind of the No Mercy half entrance where they stop at the end of the ramp, but the music only plays for about 3 to 4 seconds, and then there's
like this like awkward silence as they're like, okay, now I'm gonna walk to the ring.
Maybe that was their way of fitting the music actually in the game, and they kind of figure people are just gonna skip them anyway.
I mean, the quality of the music is pretty good, so maybe the files were a little bigger, so they were only able to get like a couple seconds in having that good a quality, but just like an extra 2 seconds, like it's the perfect entrance. It looks great.
Yeah, but let's talk about this art style quick, because I think this arena looks almost identical to what the Impact Zone actually looked like at the time. Got the ramp with the stage. TNA had a very distinct look in like this era, this time, and I think they captured it pretty good, from the ring to even the Shop TNA magnets on the ring posts.
I gotta tell you though, I was 100% expecting the 6-sided ring.
Well, the 6-sided ring didn't come back until a little later, so we weren't in that at that time.
Like when I say that I had no previous knowledge of this game, the entire time I'm thinking of the first Impact game.
This is a little later. I think it was Hogan's first Impact he was on when they switched to Monday nights briefly, where the 6-sided ring went away, and it didn't come back until Impact was more, they switched over to the blue color and all that.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, in terms of roster, I don't really think I'm like dying for anybody else to be in this game. Like, there's obviously people missing, but like, you've got your big names. You've got Abyss, you've got AJ, you've got Joe and Angle and Hogan.
Ric Flair,
like, you've got
everyone.
Ric Flair. Like, you've got the big names here. Like, you've got gray hair Kevin Nash.
Yeah, not wearing a polo shirt, Kevin Nash. But even Desmond Wolfe, Nigel McGuinness, he was only in TNA for like a cup of coffee, and he somehow made it into the game.
Yeah, for what this game is, in terms of the roster, I'm not feeling like, oh, they should have put this person in the game, or this person didn't make it to the game. But like, it's pretty good.
No, but everything from the presentation, from the menu screen, everything looks so good in this game, and I think for a TNA fan to just stumble upon this, it's awesome.
Yeah. Now, the other thing, the glaring thing that I got to ask you about, John, is did you know? Did you know Namco was set to release TNA Impact 2 in 2014 for smartphones and tablets, but it never happened?
Did you know this game was removed from the App Store, but it's still playable via Android emulators and a solid APK file?
Did you know this game was also released with a 2D version for the Nokia 5530, also named TNA Impact? It featured a similar roster with a simplified playstyle.
All right, we need to break that down really quick because...
Ooh,
oh boy. So you're getting a vertical screen now, not the horizontal screen. It's not as pretty as what you would get on like an iPhone or an Android. It's very 2D Fire Pro 3/4 turned ring. The crowd is god awful. It's just a pasted image with no perspective on it.
It's cardboard cutouts for your fig fed.
Yeah. I don't know what the Nokia 5530 is, and I kind of don't want to ever know.
I just looked it up because I was very curious. You're not missing much. It's just like a really small smartphone. Like, it almost looks like
okay, I see.
Like, it's like very early generations when like smartphones still had like hard buttons on them.
Okay, yeah, this is brutal. This is really brutal. But hey, you got Hulk Hogan, AJ
about
Styles.
the size of a credit card.
Yeah, well, it's better than the N-Gage, probably. But I also want to talk about the TNA Impact 2 that was set to come out in 2014 because Bandai Namco announced that it was coming. They put out a trailer, and this trailer, the graphics were incredible. It shows Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray, the newer blue TNA Impact logo and ring. Still four-sided, not six-sided yet, but the graphics were incredible. And for this to come out, all they said was later this year in 2014, and it never happened. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, this looks way more on par with what you would expect from like the newer iterations of games. This is definitely a step up from what the first game was, and it's more in line with what you'd expect to see from like, I hate to make this comparison, but from like the WWE style of games, because obviously TNA is its own thing and you want it to be separate, but comparing the graphics quality and the gameplay, like, you know, you see Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy in there and it looks good. The camera angles are great. It's pretty nice looking.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think TNA just had really bad luck with games, and there's still a chance to get a new Impact game, and that would be pretty awesome. I know everyone's clamoring for figures. They just put out new cards. I would love a new game.
I feel like timing, at least with my knowledge of TNA, like timing has always been the big thing. Like they were always just like a little too late to put things out. And, you know, now is this like resurgence and renaissance of these wrestling video games. And, you know, after the release of 2K20, I feel like wrestling video games just kind of got like hey, we're hitting the reset button and we're going to start brand new. And now the market's wide open to who's going to be that next dominant force in wrestling video games. So if TNA is going to release a new wrestling game, now's the time. Strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, even if it was like a Steam exclusive and not on consoles. But TNA was going to get a sequel to the original TNA wrestling game, but Time Warner purchased Midway, and with that, the license was not included for TNA. So I guess that's why Namco picked this up. They were able to get at least something out because you don't have a game for a while. You want one if you're a TNA fan.
I mean, if TNA comes out with a game this year, I'm ready. I'm buying it day one just because I'm all about these new IPs coming out, and we haven't had a TNA game in so long that I'm all for it. All right, John, listen. I need you to play that calming, relaxing Zen music because I need some ratings and reviews for this TNA mobile game.
All right, so like we said, the iOS and Android games are shut down. We can't actually see the ratings that were left there. But this game has received mixed reviews. Harry Slater reviewed the Android version for Pocket Gamer and criticized the pace as well as the repetitiveness of the game. I could agree with that. When I was creating the wrestler, and George even asked, well, during his playthrough, how do I do more moves? You only get 2 grapple moves. That's all you get. But the games are quick, so you can make do. However, he described the game as fun and a good representation of pro wrestling as a whole, giving it a 7 out of 10. Now, Metacritic lists the score of a 53 out of 100 from 6 critic reviews of the iOS version. So, I kind of agree that it was a little bit better than mediocre. So, I'm gonna agree more with Harry Slater rather than the Metacritic reviews.
Yeah, I listen. I feel like we're inching towards a very important segment. So let's have a conversation right now because it's time to rate the games.
The game!
All right, so let's talk about this first before we offer up our official ratings here. Now, you have experience with this game before. You enlightened me to this world of the TNA Impact Mobile game, and, you know, our tournament that we do was a little different this week, but doesn't change the experience. So let's break this down, John. What did you think about the graphics here?
Graphically, for a mobile game, I think they were great.
Okay. Can you separate the gameplay and the graphics? Will you forgive the short entrance music?
Yeah, after I watch them once, I usually skip them anyway. I don't think that's the main part of this. I think any mobile game, if you're going to play it more than like a couple minutes or a few matches at a time, then switch to a console or switch to a Switch or a PSP, but you're on your phone. This is for like a train ride or a break at work or something. You're playing a few matches and you're putting it down.
All right, now the most important question. TNA Impact Mobile. Will you play it forever or future endeavor?
You're fired!
Well, now that I have it and I'm able to actually play it whenever I want, I'm playing it forever.
Woo!
I forgot this game existed until John Fiorio in the Major Pod Facebook group reminded me of it and said, when are you playing this? Can you play this? Like, do you have an old phone that this plays on? And I said, I got this. And I downloaded it, and it was everything I remembered it to be and more. Yeah, play it forever. What about you, George?
So this whole experience, I can't say that it was a bad one. I have this on my phone in 2011, sitting on the train going to work. I'll play it. Not probably going to put nearly as much time into it as, say, a full console release, but it's a good time killer, and it's way more in depth than you would expect from a mobile game. So I'm inclined to agree with you here. I think that this Impact game for your phone offers a pretty good experience, and I think that I'm with you on this one. I think I'm also going to play it forever.
Woo! I like it. See your first TNA game experience. You play it forever. I love to hear it. But I'm the veteran here of the TNA games. How did you fare against me? Because it's time we talk about our weekly tournament, Clash at the Feast. All right, for this week's game, TNA Impact, the mobile game, we couldn't play against each other. We actually did time trials. Check that out on youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast and see if I was able to pick up a win here, because last week was week 5 of this month's tournament. We counted May, we counted June. We played Day of Reckoning in honor of MJF's favorite wrestling game growing up. Game 1, George went with Randy Orton in those blue trunks MJF spoke of. I went with Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero, and Eddie won. Match number 2, you went with The Undertaker inside a Hell in a Cell. I chose Big Dave Batista, Drax, and I won that one also. That's 2 weeks in a row with a clean sweep. For your winner this week, Johnny Clash.
Not everything's made to last. This is my life. This is my life. And this is my time. This is where I shine.
So right now, George, the score is 3-2. If I happen to win this TNA Impact game, which you can check out on YouTube, it's a tie score. That brings us to next week, would be the tiebreaker for week 1 of season 3.
That's what I want. I want you to tie it up so that there's actual competition. Like I said earlier,
listen.
It's fun when it's competitive.
It's quality, not quantity. I enjoy winning the better games. But with that,
that's fine.
What is the tiebreaker going to be? What are we playing next week?
All right. Well, I got to tell you, I feel like you're going to be excited about next week because I feel like it's a layup. It's a game that you've played before. It's probably going to be another Clash at the Feast that you win. But hey, I'm excited either way because next week we are playing the sequel to a game that we covered last year when we play WWF Raw 2.
Oh, see, you say that favors me, but I honestly haven't touched that game since I got rid of my Xbox, however long ago that was.
Yeah, but listen, I'm kind of excited about this, and I think this is going to be a little bit of a different experience here because we, you said you haven't played this game in a long time. I've never played this game. Touched on it many times, not an Xbox kid. So, we'll see what happens next week. But either way, this game looks great. Very excited to see how this fares against the first Raw game that we played last year. And I'm ready to do this, man.
All right. Well, I think I'm good here. I think I'm going to go start an X Division career mode with like Rob Terry or something.
All right, well, allow me to do that thing where we put a bow on it. So that's going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks Podcast. Please check out all of our merchandise at GameMarksPod.com/shop and join us on Patreon, patreon.com/GameMarksPod. It's the best way besides listening to support the podcast, and please make sure to follow us on all forms of social media and leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you think about this podcast on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to wherever you choose to listen. Thanks for hanging out with us this week, John. Thank you for hosting this week's Clash at the Feast. And time to do that thing that you do.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the Clash at the Feast, how can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.
What's up, Game Marks? This is Justin Summers from the Wrestling Cheers podcast, and on Wrestling Cheers, we'd like to talk about things going on in the Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene, mainly absolute intense wrestling out of Cleveland, Ohio. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. These interviews can range from wrestlers to podcasters, and even interviews with fellow fans, finding out how we became fans and what we like about AIW. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestling Cheers, and you can also find us wherever you download your podcasts, whether it be Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Pandora, and we're at Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. And once again, that's Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when you're a Game Mark.